I've burnt out in my life in small ways and big ways, more times than I care to remember. And every time it felt like it came out of nowhere. So one day I was fine, and the next I just couldn't get out of bed, or I caught another cold, or I was crying at something tiny and couldn't stop. And each time I went looking for what I'd done wrong. So was it too much work, not enough sleep, the wrong supplements, a new productivity system? And it took me a long time to realize it wasn't coming out of nowhere at all. My body had been telling me for weeks, sometimes months, and actually at one time, probably over a year. And I just wasn't listening. And so that's what we're going to go into today. So, hi, I'm Mercedes, if you've not met me before. And I have in my life experienced deep, extreme burnout where I've had to quit everything that I'm doing, and also smaller burnouts that I've had throughout the time. And that's what led me really into somatic healing and got me to working with people as a somatic practitioner and also a yoga teacher. And to add to that, I'm neurodivergent, so I have diagnosed ADHD, likely have autism as well. And that has led me into this cycle of extreme work, crashing, burnout, and then up and down. So I've experienced it quite a lot in my life. And by the end of this video, I want you to understand why your body kept getting louder until it had to shout, and what it was actually trying to tell you, and how to start hearing the whispers before they turn into symptoms. And we're going to do that by first looking at why your body has to shout when it could have whispered, and then the signals that you've probably been overriding without realizing, and why listening, what it actually is and what it isn't, so what we don't want to be doing, and how to start hearing your body before it forces you to. And stay to the end and we'll do a practice together. So your body is always sending you signals. It's not like this passive passenger that's going there. It's really an active communicator with you. And this is part of the battle, is kind of learning to listen to that. And it's one of the things that I've been spending a long time in my life working on. And I've got a lot better at it recently as well. But your signals will start as whispers. So it might be a small drop in energy or a bit of tension, or just that feeling that you don't want to be doing something, but you push past it and do it anyway. And when you then don't respond to those signals that the body is sending you, so you ignore them essentially, which is what we're very guilty of in Western culture of doing, because we're told that productivity is what we need to be doing. We need to be more productive. We need to do more. We need to achieve more. So we override these quiet signals. Then the body will start to get louder. So the tiredness, you felt that little bit of tiredness, starts to feel like complete exhaustion, or the tension that you were feeling in your shoulders starts to feel like pain. And the irritation can feel like just complete overwhelm. You can't cope with the things that are going on around you. And if you still don't listen then, right? And then we are guilty, some of us, and I have been in the past, and I'll tell you about that story at some point, maybe in a minute, I don't know. If you don't listen to that, your body will force the issue. So you'll get ill, you'll burn out, you'll have a breakdown or a panic attack. And it's not punishing you. It's kind of doing the only thing it has left to do to get you to stop. But your body is on your side. So it's not against you, but it feels like it's working against you in these moments. But the body would rather give you the slight whisper signals and you pay attention to it before it needs to shout. So for me, I experienced that before. When I was working in banking, I was being pushed to work hard, and I was working harder and harder and harder. And I was getting ill all the time. It was like one thing after another. I was either on antibiotics, or I had a cold, or I was run down. And I wasn't taking any time off work because we were really busy, and I was asked not to take time off work. And then it just got to the point where I was like, I just don't want to go in. And I ended up quitting because I couldn't cope with turning up at work anymore. I was mentally and emotionally and physically burnt out from turning up and doing that work. And if I'd listened a lot earlier, maybe I could have carried on my career, but I just couldn't. At that time, I didn't have the ability to really listen to those signals. And that can make a huge difference to how you feel. So the signals that you often override are that tiredness. So for me, when I was, say, working in banking, I would get really tired. So there were days where I would say to my boss at lunchtime, I need to go home, because I felt so run down by lunchtime. I literally couldn't function in the afternoon. Or if I stayed, my work was really poor because I was exhausted. And then I would cope with that by just having another coffee and seeing if that could help me to push through. or things we often override is when we get that feeling, someone asks us to do something where we know we've got a packed schedule and we get this feeling inside that's like, no, I really shouldn't do that. But we say yes anyway because we think, our people pleasing fawn response kicks in and we say yes and we do it anyway. And then it's overriding our own inner signals. And this is something I'm still working on, is ignoring the fact that maybe I need to go to the toilet, or I'm hungry, or I'm thirsty because I'm busy doing something, and I'm just going to ignore all the other signals and do what I'm doing. And actually, that can lead to burnout, where we continually override the small body signals that are coming in and we're not responding to them. And this is one I do a lot less because of all the yoga that I've done in the years and all the breath work that I've done. I don't really hold my breath. But if you notice that you're holding your breath and then you suddenly realize that you've been holding your breath, that can actually be a sign that you're starting to feel under stress. And having tension in your body, right? We hold tension in our bodies all the time and we don't notice it. And then we sit down and we relax and we realize that our body is aching everywhere. And we've been holding that tension in all day and we've been ignoring it. We haven't been listening to the tension as it's coming in and we're just ignoring it. And then suddenly that we can get hit with something a lot worse because we're not listening. And emotionally, we may get emotions coming up that feel like a shock or feel like a surprise. We didn't realize that they were building up. And that's sometimes where we can have an emotional explosion. That's because actually we've been pushing down how we've been feeling and swallowing it for so long that it can then come up as an outburst. And that's how it can appear. And like I said, when I was in banking, I got ill quite regularly. And that can often happen all the time, or you can happen when you're doing lots of stuff, you work really hard, and then the moment that you have a break, you get ill. And I started to notice this in my son, who is neurodivergent, and he finds going to school quite stressful, and particularly around the winter term where it's cold and it's harder to do these things. Every time we have a holiday, he gets really, really unwell, and like extremely unwell. So like say at Christmas, he was unwell for virtually the whole of the holiday because he was just so wiped out by a whole term at school and having to get through the emotions of a nativity play, that his body responded in that way. And we often as adults, we will do that as well. We will push through things when really we need a break and then we stop and our bodies get ill. And all of these things can combine to push us towards burnout. And it's important that when we start to listen to the signals. It's not about analysing, so we don't need to figure them out. We don't need to know what a sensation means or what to do about it. We need to listen to it. And we're not sort of fixing in the sense that we're trying to make the sensation go away. We're just noticing it and we're acknowledging it. And we are responding to it as well. So if our body is telling us there is tiredness there, then it becomes a point of like listening to, okay, so what can I do to honour my body's needs? What can I do here? What can I shift and what can I adjust to honour what my body is telling me? And the more we can do that, the more we can notice and honour those messages that come through, then the lower the chance that we're going to reach that burnout threshold. And listening is basically the process of unlearning, overriding the body's signals. And it's slowing down enough to hear what's always been said. And I work very hard on this so that when I have a day when I wake up and I feel tired, I won't push through. I won't make myself do something. Even if it's scheduled in, I will adjust it. Unless it's like something seriously important, like it was a really important hospital appointment or something like that, then I would do it. But if it's something around my work, like I have to make a YouTube video like I'm doing right now, if I'm really not feeling my best, I will say, well, do you know what? It can wait for another day. The world's not going to come to an end if I don't produce that YouTube video today in this moment. And it can become harder when you have a place of employment. You need to go into work and you think, well, okay, I can't just take endless days off. But you can listen to what your body is telling you and maybe make adjustments to the way that you work on that day and the things that you do and the way you can shift things around in order to give yourself that freedom. And just knowing that that's okay. Whatever you do, it's okay, right? When to listen to what's happening. So there are lots of different ways you can start tuning into your body. But first of all, the first thing to do is to start doing it consciously. So to be conscious of the fact that you're listening to your body. And that might be setting in 3 check-ins a day. And that might be mid-morning, mid-afternoon, and in the evening. And set an alarm on your phone if you need to do that. And just tune in and ask yourself, like, what can I feel in my body? And not like what should be here or what's wrong, just what can I feel? And you can tune into sort of like 3 places. So we don't have to like do a huge big body scan and spend hours doing it. You can just sit quietly where you are, spend 30 to 60 seconds tuning in and saying, what's here? How does my chest feel? How does my belly feel? How do my shoulders feel? What's my breathing like? And that can be enough. So you don't have to go really deep. You just tune in and notice. And you don't even need to do anything about what you notice. Just acknowledge it. Be aware that it's there. Say, thank you for telling me that. I hear you. And just acknowledge what's coming up. And over time, you'll start to catch those signals earlier. And so your body will whisper a lot more rather than shout, because you're listening and you're hearing and you're responding and you're acknowledging. And the idea is that we do small practice often and we make it gentle. So it's not like a big life-changing thing. It's like a drip, drip, drip in. And I find now I'm very good at picking up on very subtle signals in my body and being able to acknowledge them and listen to them. I'm a human being. I don't always listen to them. Sometimes I do still attempt to override my signals. Like I did very recently I had a niggle in my side and I overrode it, and I did physical work and I ended up with a strain in the muscles on my side and unable to do anything for over a week. It's kind of like 2 weeks in now and I'm still in some discomfort. And that's because I ignored what my body was telling me. And so that when we acknowledge that we ignored it, then the body can still start to send those small signals because we're still acknowledging what's happening. So let's do a practice together. So sit with your feet flat on the floor, and just take a slow breath in and let it tumble out of the mouth. And just notice your chest. Can you feel anything there? Is there any tightness, heaviness, or does it feel easy and flowing? When you notice that, notice your breath. And at the same time, go down to your belly. Is it soft, tight, hungry, or settled? And how is your breath flowing through your chest and your belly? Where is it? And then notice your shoulders. Where are they sitting? Are they relaxed? Or are you holding tension? So I can feel, even while doing this, they're not fully up, like really tense, but I can feel there's a slight holding in at my shoulders. So I can just maybe relax them a bit if I want to. But just notice. And you don't have to change any of these sensations that you've got right now. You just need to listen and be aware that you're listening and acknowledge them. And that's it. That's the practice. Just doing that, tuning in 3, 4, 5 times a day, however many feels comfortable, and build up that practice of listening to what your body is saying to you. So if this video resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe, because it genuinely helps me reach more people that need this work. And if you'd like to go deeper into nervous system regulation and somatic healing, I have a community on School called the Somatic Reset Lab. It's $7 a month to join. And it's a calm space where we work through this kind of thing together. And we do lots of different practices, and there's loads of stuff in there. So the link is in the description, and I'd love to see you on the inside.